Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 26th of May 2024. Great news for the investors in the Indian stock markets. The Indian stock markets are at its all-time high. 75,000 on the Sensex and Nifty at 23,000. The last high was on 10th of April 2024 this year, maybe around 40 days back. This high was on 23rd of May. This 40 days went through a phase where people were little unsure as to what could be the exact nature of the election outcome. But now it seems that the people are settled, and especially the participants in the equity market are settled on how and what type of the new formation of the government would be. Maybe it could be that reason why FIIs have now been into the positive mode, and they have added more than 5,500 crores in the Indian equity markets, and the DIIs, as always, have been the buyers in the Indian market to the extent of 9,500 crores. The Nifty 50 was up by more than 2%, Nifty mid cap was up by more than 1.5%, and Nifty small cap was marginally up by just 0.5%. The major sectors which did well were Nifty metals, Nifty PSU banks, and Nifty oil and gas. They were all up by around 3%, but the sectors which were a little slow in their performance were Nifty FMCG and Nifty Pharma. Both these sectors were up by 0.7 around. The global commodity markets were softer. Brent crude, gold and silver, they were all down by around 2 to 3%. Nasdaq in the US market was up by around 1.5%, but S&P 500 was unchanged. This week I wanted to talk about the dividend given by RBI to the government of India. This is a very significant and important news, and I would like to discuss in a little length and detail on every other aspect in respect of this dividend. The dividend declared by the RBI was to the tune of 2,10,000 crores, as we all know. Last year, this dividend to the government of India by the Reserve Bank of India was 87,000 crores, and the budgeted estimate of dividend by the government of India in its budget was around 1.02 lakh crores. So it is much more than what was expected by the government. Now let us understand as to how does the Reserve Bank of India earn all this income to pay this dividend. The Reserve Bank of India does a lot of transactions on foreign exchange, as it manages our Indian rupee vis-a-vis the foreign currency, and this sale and purchase of foreign currency leads to profits. One. Secondly, the interest it receives on forex reserves, which are held in several foreign currencies, especially the US dollars, which earned a better rate of return on account of higher yields on US securities. The Reserve Bank of India is a banker to all the banks in the country, and the banking transactions with the banks in the country also generate income to the Reserve Bank of India. The reserves which are held by the Reserve Bank of India in terms of, as I said, in foreign currencies, which are foreign securities, and also in gold, the revaluation of it leads to the profit. Last but not the least, the Reserve Bank of India issues currencies, and the cost of printing and the currency issued is the net profit to the Reserve Bank of India. So all these incomes generate a lot of revenue, and the revenue generated by the Reserve Bank of India is paid to the government by way of dividends. In 2018, the then Reserve Bank Governor Urjit Patel had a different view in respect of declaring dividends to the government of India. So in those times, a Bimal Jalan committee was formed, and the Bimal Jalan committee said that we will prescribe a contingent risk buffer, which is CRB, and the band of that CRB would be between 5.5 to 6.5. So in a year where there is a difficulty in terms of the government revenues, the Reserve Bank of India will retain a lower amount of money with it, which would be around say 5.5%, which was true in the COVID years. And the year in which the economy is doing good, it will retain a larger amount of its profits with its own self. Last year, that CRB was 6%, and this year, the retained amount before declaring the dividend was 6.5%, which was the CRB this year. Thereafter, whatever was left was declared by way of dividend. So this dividend declared does not seem to be overboard, and it protects the interests of the Reserve Bank of India as it seems like. Now, what could be the effects of this dividend declare? First of all, in the union budget, which could be out in the month of July of 2024 after the new government is in place, the fiscal deficit could be controlled on account of this exceptional flow of money. This can be also useful if the government intends to spend on several projects of the government, which could be even building up the infrastructure in the country. As we all know, that government of India is the biggest borrower in the country, and the entire fiscal deficit is to be funded by borrowings by the government. Now, if it has got a large amount of money on its side received by way of dividend, it has to borrow less. And when it has to borrow less, then the interest rates in general in the economy might come down. And it is for this reason that the 10-year GSEC yield, after hearing this news this week, was down by from 7.09% to 6.99%. This is a good news for the corporates, because if the interest rates in the economy come down, then the corporates can borrow at a lower rate, and that can shore up their profitability. But this cannot be expected on a consistent basis year on year. This is maybe a one-time bonanza for the government. And this is a good news for the government in the coming up union budget, which is already out. The good news is already out. Now, coming to some small news which are like writing on the wall. The first news is that in the BSE Sensex, 30-share Sensex, from that index, Wipro, which is an IT major, is out, and Adani Ports is in. This clearly gives a signal the kind of companies which are going to lead this country in the times to come. The IT companies, the profitability is flattening, and infrastructure is going to be a major thirst for the economy. Then AI is a rage across the world. NVIDIA, the global leader in making AI chips, the year-on-year profitability of NVIDIA is up by 584%, and the revenues of NVIDIA on a year-on-year basis is up by 262%. And this is, as I said, on account of the AI boom. Last but not the least, we always go on saying that India is becoming a less cash economy. One amusing news which I could read this week was that when Apple started its stores in India, in Mumbai and Delhi, it never installed currency counting machines. because the experience which it had in the US was that, US and Europe both, was that the cash transactions in their stores would be 1% or 0%. In India, these transactions of purchases by cash are in the range of 7 to 9%. And in Delhi, the cash transactions are on the higher side than what it is in Mumbai. So there is a lot of unfinished agenda for the government to see that there is less cash or no cash in the country in terms of transactions between all the economic transactions. Thank you so much. This is all for this week.